Notice I didn't call you a preacher yet, but I might someday. It is always a joy for me to welcome to our worship our young adults. And today, as we're celebrating United Methodist Women's Sunday, it is especially a joy to welcome one of our young women in the congregation. Brooke Brennan will be sharing with you from her experience. Brooke is a senior at Washburn University. She is majoring in elementary education with a minor in early childhood development. That means she gets to go to school for another year again to finish both of those degrees. But we are so thrilled for her interest in teaching and helping and reaching out, as I believe, not just through her education, but through her faith as well. Brooke, we welcome you today.
As some of you know, I had the opportunity to study abroad to Belize through the Washburn Education Program. I was only abroad a few weeks, but I learned my biggest life lesson from this journey. Belize, described in a commercial standpoint, is a beautiful place full of adventures for tourists with a light blue Caribbean sea. It offers opportunities to snorkel through the Great Barrier Reef, swim in the Blue Hole, visit the Mayan ruins, and many more breathtaking experiences. Belize is known as Mother Nature's best-kept secret. This quote became more relevant as I learned the true secret Belize had to offer me. I remember going on mission trips with our church youth group to the Rescue Mission in Topeka and different organizations in Kansas City that dealt with the poor. But the poverty I encountered in Belize was much more severe. Almost 40% of all children aged 17 and younger live in poverty, 43% of the population live below the poverty line, and 12.2% of people were living on less than $1.25 per day. The majority of the people we met were families that made crafts to sell to tourists. While visiting Altoon Hall, a site of the famous Mayan ruins, I met a shopkeeper who ran his family's business. While walking by, the shopkeeper stopped one of the members of our group and pointed at his tattoo and said, "I have a necklace like that tattoo." He persuaded us to go to a shop where one of my friends decided to buy a bracelet, in which he then suggested she should buy more for her roommates. It was obvious this young businessman knew what he was doing, even though you may be surprised to learn he was only 12 years old. Now, I'm not a person that can haggle, and when the person I'm dealing with is a 12-year-old impoverished child in Belize, I'm even less likely to haggle. But when he noticed that we both were wearing Bass Pro Shop ball caps, he said for me, he would make a deal. Although laws in Belize state children must attend school until 14, nearly 33,700 children from ages 5 to 14 are working and not attending school. Like this young businessman, this is the life of many children who live in Belize, and these children may even be considered the lucky ones, as we soon found out as we visited and taught in the orphanages. We visited King's Orphanage, which was a brand new facility, Liberty Children's Home, and Dorothy Menzies Children's Home. Of the three, Dorothy Menzies was the one where the children faced the most difficult conditions. So much so, photography was not allowed at this facility. Although I was told since Washburn has been bringing groups to volunteer, the conditions have improved greatly and encouraged their government to more closely monitor the conditions of the facilities. We were not able to tour this orphanage, but we are told that they had bunk beds, and generally there were 4 children in each bed. There was a severe overcrowding at this orphanage, although all of them were very full. While orphanages are not the ideal fate for the children of Belize, they offer an improvement from the difficulties they may face at home. These organizations offer companionships and relationships with others going through the same hardships. A misconception we may have about orphanages is that these children do not have parents or families, but in many of the cases in Belize, the families had to face the incredibly difficult decision to place them in an orphanage. We were there over the holiday season, so many of the children were gone because of home visits. At Liberty Children's Home, the main goal is to someday reunite the child with their family, permanent adoption, foster families, and the last option being the institution. So in this sense, Liberty Children's Home is considered just a temporary home. While certainly living in these homes is a step up from living on the streets and having no food to eat, The conditions were certainly substandard to the conditions we expect here in America. One afternoon when we arrived, the children were finishing their snack, which consisted of half a handful of raw ramen noodles, which they relished to the point of licking the palm of their hands. One day I was outside in the play area, which was an alley that resembled a construction site, where a girl I really connected with named Shamika found a bag that had been discarded on the ground that seemed to contain some cereal crumbs. She was happily eating the crumbs and excited to show what she had found. One day Shamika asked if I could push her on the swing, so we walked around the corner to the play equipment, in which there was an iron bar with swings suspended. I walked by the first swing and said, "That one is broken. I will put you on this swing," which was a piece of wood with nails bent to hold it on the chains. Next thing I know, a little boy runs up and sits on the previous swing that I believed was broken. The seat was a rag, in which each end was tied to the chain. It was amazing that these children had so little but were able to appreciate how much they did have, whether it was crumbs from a bag or a rag for a swing. Perhaps their appreciation stems from the fact that all these organizations had a strong faith-based foundation. Just like the scripture read today from James, has not God chosen the poor in the world to be rich in faith and to be heirs of the kingdom that he has promised to those who love him? There are so many stories I would like to share, but one in particular is when a young girl went up to our professor and whispered something in her ear. My professor later shared that the child said, "I will pray for you." There is no way the little girl could have known that my professor's husband was battling some serious medical challenges, and to think that this young girl, who has very little in material things, would take the time to pray for someone in America that has everything America has to offer is quite humbling. We have all seen the commercials on television for Compassion International, our Christian Children's Fund. And for the 30 seconds it is on, our hearts melt, and we think about what we should do. And then the TV says, "And now back to the Real Housewives." And in a matter of seconds, we slip back into what we are comfortable with and tend to forget about it. For instance, one day, after spending all day at the orphanage, I was preparing to take a shower before dinner. And for a split second, I thought to myself, I hate how cold this shower always is. And an instant later, I was mad at myself for even thinking such a thing after seeing what all these people are challenged with every day. It is a constant battle to remind myself just how blessed I am and to let the small stuff go. This was another lesson this experience has taught me. I can stand here and tell you what this experience is like, but I cannot fully convey the emotional impact it had. The only way you can begin to understand it is to be there and experience it yourself. It was not just the orphanages that made an impact, but the many cultural differences Belize offered us. We had the opportunity to sample some of the traditional foods, like black soup. It wasn't one of my favorites, but many other dishes I did like. We also learned in Belize it is actually expected to exchange a greeting as you walk past people. We learned this on our first night there by a guy who asked, "No evening?" as we walked by him on the dock. We very quickly got into the habit and loved saying good morning, evening, and Happy New Year and becoming more connected with those around us. We got to know our bus drivers and hotel staff on a more personal level because by exchanging these greetings, it opens the door to a further communication leading to a more meaningful relationship. While back in America, we are thinking we are making connections through social media by constantly looking down at our phone. In reality, we are not connecting with those around us face to face. For instance, in my generation, on a college campus, almost no one makes eye contact as they pass, even if they do not have their phone. A main lesson I learned in Belize was to put down your phone. Life is happening. While we were in Belize to work at orphanages, we also had some downtime scheduled to relax and recharge our batteries. For instance, one day while spending all morning at an orphanage, we had afternoon time to nap or relax after lunch. But a group of about 5 of us decided to make another trip back to Dorothy Menzies Orphanage. Since this was a non-scheduled visit, we had to walk, and little did we know it was a walk of a few miles. But it was all worth it when Jose ran out and said, "You came back." There were a few members of our group who were reluctant to go back because of how difficult it is when it's time to leave. Their thought was, why go through that just to spend only a few more hours with them? My perspective was that 2 more hours with them was giving them the attention they need, as well as showing them they are worthwhile because we are going back to see them. As we learned in today's scripture reading, we are to love our neighbors as ourselves. Even these precious children living thousands of miles away in Central America are also our neighbors. You too can be involved in making a difference in the lives of these children. You do not have to be a Washburn University student, an education major, or even a young person to accompany this group next December. If you are interested, there will be information in the foyer. The Belizean Tourism Board may have you believe that the best kept secret is the hidden mine rings or the blue hole. But I will never forget the faces I have seen, the laughter I have heard from children living under the most difficult circumstances, and the lesson I walk away with from this experience. My favorite part of my trip wasn't the beauty of the mine rings. It wasn't kayaking and ziplining through the rainforest. It was the experience of feeling as though I impacted someone other than myself. However, these children taught me so much more. Happiness is not at all measured by the amount of material things you possess. These children have hope and always continue to smile with situations unimaginable. Life is so much more than the dumb things we complain about. So for me, the greatest kept secret is that we all have the ability to impact the lives of each other. I may have impacted the life of an orphan, but I feel they had even a greater impact on me. Thank you.